you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm host Voss here from the Chris Voss Show.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I figure I'd try something different on you guys today. That or I am having a full seizure. So that seems to be... I'm just trying to recover from being gone over the holidays, and I'm like, how do you run a podcast again? Well, we've been here for 17 years and 2,700 episodes, so I guess we'll figure it out. In the meantime, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet, so you can find all the wonderful stuff that we're doing there. We're now posting a lot more on TikTok and Instagram, so check that out. We're trying to get along with those folks over there. I guess we decided they might be cool enough for us. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, I'm going to be talking with Dr. Tom Walsh, a veterinarian and animal physical therapist who founded Prime Pet Rehabilitation Therapy in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. What a great vacation place, too, out there. He is also the creator of the Coerenza Approach. I think I got that right, didn't I? Let's see. Did I get that right? The Coerenza Approach, and a holistic framework for pet care built around 5 pillars: exercise, enrichment, environment, nutrition, and responsibility, which is different than what my husky wants all the time. Play, treat. Anyway, so we're going to get into finding out how to do better. We're going to talk about how this approach helps pets live better lives, how it can actually reduce burnout from the professionals who care for them. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Give us your .coms, websites, socials, where we want people to get to know you better and stalk you on the interwebs.
Sure. PrimePetRehab.com and the Coerenza Approach. Coerenza Approach is COERENZA.
So, Tom, give us a 30,000 overview. Lay a foundation for us. What is Coerenza, and how does this whole thing kind of work from a 30,000 overview?
For sure. I'm a veterinarian, but it's actually a second career for me. I started off in telecommunications, and I did what I would not recommend doing, which is go to vet school when you're 40. So I did that, and and made it through. And I have a little bit different perspective than most veterinarians. And I did general practice for about 10 years. And then COVID allowed us to rethink our lives. And I wanted to do something a little bit different. I had always loved rehabilitation, physical therapy, that sort of thing. And so what I did was form Prime Pet Rehab. It was mobile at the time. I was going around from vet office to vet office, and they were all empty. And we were, all masked up like gangsters. And I would abduct your dog in the parking lot, and then I would go in there, work on him, and bring him back out. And lo and behold, he would not be limping anymore, and that would be a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And that's how I built the business. And after a couple of years in the business, I realized that I kept saying the same things over and over again. So that meant I had a particular way of doing things, and a way of approaching things. And that led me into coming up with the Coerenza Approach.
The Coerenza Approach. You know, it's funny. I was laughing a little bit when you said COVID allowed us to realign ourselves or reconfigure what we were doing. And I was just laughing because I'm like, you make it sound like it was volunteer.
Forced labor.
I remember having a gun to my head going, if you want to go outside, I'll get you. Exactly. And not a good thing there. But no, it did. It caused me to reevaluate my relationship with my family, I decided that I shouldn't have faked my death 20 years ago, and maybe I should get them out of military school now that they're 18. And maybe send them a letter or two. No, it actually, it realigned me a lot of my values. I realized that a lot of the BS I was chasing, money, cars, women, hookers, blow, all that sort of stuff. I'm just kidding, folks. Was bad. Don't do blow. And that I should care about my family, and that maybe I need to kind of grow up a little bit. It was kind of an awakening moment to like start taking life a little seriously, and maybe business seriously and everything else. And question what we led. We changed the format of the show and over COVID. But yeah, it was really great. I think that's cool. Necessity. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Necessity is the mother of invention. And so that was awesome. You guys figured out a way to, make that, have animals still get help, even though, we were trying to avoid each other at 6 feet.
Yeah, the animals didn't stop hurting themselves and didn't stop, coming down with conditions. We figured it out and made it through, and thankfully grew the business very quickly. And this past November, we just celebrated our 3rd year in my actual building. So
congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate that.
This would be good fodder for a book. We were talking before about how you should, I think you're working on a book and stuff. That'd be a great story. It's a great business innovation. It's a great story for a very dark time. And a lot of entrepreneurs, this is how they build out. They find something that's an impetus to themselves. They're like, hey, this isn't working. So how do we innovate? And so they innovate and they come up with stuff, and they find that, people are willing to pay in direct proportion, usually to the value that's given. And that's what entrepreneurs do. And so a great entrepreneur lesson for people out there, sometimes when life hands you lemons, make some lemonade.
That's right.
That, or I don't know, put it in your eyes and cry a lot. So that's probably the move I would make. I did a lot of that during COVID. I think mainly it was every time they canceled an event and I watch another $10,000, $20,000 evaporate. It was like rolling punches. Just event after event all year long would disappear, and I just watched like hundreds of thousands of dollars burn. I'm like, we built this for 5 years and it's gone overnight. And life went, yeah, have fun with that, buddy. Now, in this approach, you've got 5 pillars. Tell us about how these 5 pillars, what can you tease out a little bit about what they are, and how do we get these darn dogs to do it?
So I believe that if we pay attention to kind of these 5 pillars, we can probably handle, I'd say, 85 to 90% of the normal things that we see recurring in a veterinary office. And so it's kind of a preventive approach with a holistic flair, if you will. But really, it's taking care of the dog's needs from a more educated standpoint. And the 5 pillars are exercise, environment, enrichment, nutrition, and responsibility. But responsibility really means the role of the animal in the family. This is really important because they are pack animals, and they want to know and keep up with the pack, which would be the family, whether it has other dogs in it or not.
Okay. Now, enrichment, how does this work? Do I have to give my dog an allowance, or I have to get them to get a job or something? I'm always yelling at my dogs, get a job.
I think we're going to try to do what you do to your listeners is mental enrichment.
Mental enrichment.
Yeah.
All right. So how do I do that? Give me some examples of how to do that. Because
let's give you a scenario. It's a nasty, gross day outside. It's raining sideways, and your dog is now getting stir crazy because they haven't gotten their walks. They've had to go out, and you've had to hold on to them while they go to the bathroom, and they're starting to do zoomies in the house and maybe go in the other room, chew on a sock and swallow that and that kind of thing. That is a situation to where they're not being challenged with their brain. And when you start to realize that the nose on a dog is processing over 65,000 smells, the ears are in the 40 to 50,000 different tones, recognizable. So they need to be stimulated. So using things like a snuffle mat or a lick mat. They actually make dog puzzles with varying degrees of difficulty. And even if your dog is not food motivated, you can actually find one that appeals to your dog.
Dog feeding puzzles. I've seen those things, and I've often wondered about them. Maybe I should get one for the Huskies and stuff, but I don't know. We'd have to see.
Huskies are a great breed. If you think about what they were born to do, they burn off a lot of physical energy, but they still are extremely smart and constantly trying to figure things out, trying to get you to do things at home that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them and that sort of thing, because they like to run the house and they like to be super dramatic about it too, just as a general Husky population. I haven't been to your house yet, but maybe this is familiar at your house.
Oh yeah, I get cussed out every morning if I don't produce the treats quickly enough or jump through the hoops. I get yelled at.
And dogs that, for example, let's just take a simple scenario, just like you just said there. Instead of you handing them the treats, they have to use a puzzle to solve those treats, to get to those treats. They are going to be more enriched by that, tremendously more than you just handing them one.
Yeah, that would make sense. We've been having a problem with my dog where back in September of 2024, we lost my oldest dog.
I'm sorry.
And she's had a hard time, my little one that was left behind, because that's the dog she's always known. That's been her best buddy since she was like 8 weeks. And she's had a really hard time. I've never had one of my Huskies have this hard of a time for this long. She doesn't eat well. You never know what she's going to eat. There's like 10 bag treats that I have, and some treats she wants. Sometimes she doesn't. It's like really finicky. But maybe I should try getting her some puzzles so she has something more to play with. We're trying to get a dog right now. We're trying to find the right one, a new puppy, so that she can get out of my hair and get. If you have Huskies, folks, you have to have two. You cannot have one Husky. Trust me, I will save your sanity right now. But we did go through a grieving process, and then I had to get some hernia surgeries. So, it's a little hard to pick up dogs and chase them around if they're trying to pee on your carpet, if they're doing that. So,
right.
So you've got the different things here. The exercise, I know how to do that. Is maybe throwing the ball more a good thing to do, or do I got to get him one of those? I've often thought with my Huskies about getting one of those walker things.
Yeah, the treadmills. Yeah. Yeah.
That or teaching her to use mine. Yeah. Is that a good idea?
Exercise is a good idea, but it's very individualized. Just like there are us. There's a lot of us that like to go to the gym. Others don't. Some like yoga, some like running. Some people hate running. So you really have to kind of dial it into what is your dog's kind of jam. Things that dogs that don't necessarily excel at running or just want to go run, crazy, they can be very fast and very good at things like agility or dock diving or something like that. So, there's a number of different things that you look into. You really kind of have to kind of determine what exactly does my dog do really well? Can they jump really high and catch a Frisbee? Oh, that's cool. Maybe we ought to do that more. Or maybe the exercise that we're doing, they chase the ball 3 times and they're like, screw that. I'm not going to do that anymore. You can have the ball. I don't want it. And so you kind of have to figure out what is their favorite thing to do and when we'll go after it. And that's just like you would a human child trying to figure out whether they're going to be in the band or whether or not they're going to play sports. You figure it out through a process.
Are they a nerd dog or are they got muscles?
That's right. Are they day trading? What are they doing?
Yeah. I mean, technically for enrichments and exercise, what we do with Huskies is we just put up a fence and see how long it takes them to dig underneath or escape. So
it's after the concrete. Yeah, the concrete and the barbed wire and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, we've got shock wire, razor wire, turrets, and they'll still figure out a way to get out. Yeah, even with turrets. So,
yeah.
We shoot over their heads, folks. We don't shoot the dogs, but we Try and scare them a little
Warning shots.
Warning shots, but different for the neighborhood kids. Come in our yard, we're going to feed you the dogs. No, I'm just kidding. It's Utah. They have so many kids, they don't even know when one's missing. So they really don't. They're like, have you seen Johnny? I don't know. We got twins on the way and we got 8 other kids. We're fine. So don't do that, folks. On nutrition's a big deal. One of the things, I've learned this with cancer with dogs and dogs having issues. There's a lot of these people. What's your stance on people buying food at the dog food at the grocery store, as opposed to trying to find maybe higher quality food at food places and, paying more for higher quality food?
For sure. Nutrition is probably one of the biggest hot topics that we have out there. And it probably is a hot topic because you get so many varying levels of responses when you start to talk about it. And the nutritionists in the veterinarian world will tell you it is simply about calories and nutrition, getting the right minerals and vitamins, just like it is for humans. And as we have learned in the human food supply chain, that overcooking things and that sort of thing, high heat takes a lot of those minerals out of that. And if your dog is a kibble only, that's not shaming kibble. There's some very good kibbles out there, but it may be helpful to supplement that with some vitamins and minerals that they might be lacking there. The other side of the spectrum is, we're going to go completely raw, or we're going to cook our own food, or this, that, the other. And I feel like it really depends on what kind of owner you are. You want to provide the best food for your animal, but if you're a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, it's a different thing than, working 3 jobs and you're out, 11 hours each day. That's a hard sell for me to tell an owner, hey, this is what you need to do, is you need to spend all your free time is doing meal prep for your dogs. So I look at it very individually. It also is complicated by whether or not the dog has any issues, skin issues, for example, allergies, because allergens are more in dogs. They are exhibited through food allergens more than we are. And so there's a number of different philosophies, but it really boils down to this. When I'm advising owners on food, I really want to know what's your free time like? What is your availability? And what are you willing to do? Because we can make it as good. We can make it people grade if you want to. We can do that. Is it necessary? It depends on what kind of owner you are. We've got folks now that are their dogs are their babies instead of human children. And so absolutely, if we want to go down that revenue, we can do that. But I don't want to get into the position of, I only support this diet. But I think that's illogical. And I think that this is where we're trying to build, as the Coerenza approach continues to develop. We're trying to build a community so that people get answers from registered dietitians and veterinarians that are nutritionists that give good information without shaming, without saying, you've got to do it my way, otherwise you're an idiot. And we have way too much of that out there, and it causes backlash reactions for the owners, and they get really frustrated and confused. Yeah.
And like you say, it's applicable to the way what the dog's health is, what the dog's going through. I know one thing I see a lot of in these groups for dogs and stuff on Facebook that I'm in, they'll be like, why does my dog have this outbreak on her skin and she's chewing off her thing? And it's like, you're giving her cheap food that's setting her off. I think like wheat and stuff sometimes they have wheat allergies or something.
Yeah, grain has been a thing, but that's also been overblown. We know now that
really?
If you cut out grain completely, it can lead to cardiovascular issues. So,
really?
Yeah. So there's in other words, that's a great example, Chris, of why you actually need somebody who's been trained in this to help guide you, because the misinformation out there is we've got we've got gluten-free dogs out there that owners are convinced that they're as far as a nutritionist will tell you, we got a long way to go before we prove that dog is gluten-free in all of our testing and everything else.
I like the people who turn their dogs vegetarian.
Yep.
And their dogs are carnivores.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm just like,
those canines did not evolve over centuries to eat grass.
Yeah, I don't think they were hunting dandelions when they were out there in the wilds. I've never seen any wolf documentary where they're like stalking, I don't know, wheat.
Yeah,
it's like, wait, rabbits or wheat? Let's go with that wheat. That sounds awesome.
It's plentiful. It's right here.
I don't understand. Usually when I hear people like that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to take a hammer over to their house. Don't do that, folks. No, I'm just kidding. But it is mentally. Ugh. Yeah. So what else have we talked about? Now, you mentioned you were trying to build a community. Do you have a community set up that you're trying to build out?
We are in the process of building out a Google group. The Facebook thing, very often several generations have moved away from Facebook as a primary resource and of information, and they're just not on it. So I wanted to do something a little bit more, with the times, if you will, and evolving. So a Google group is currently being created, and but I think the first step is coming out with my book. I'm about 95% done with it, and so that'll be hopefully coming out here shortly.
The book will be good. What else have we talked about that we want to talk about to get out to people on how this thing works? Is some of your data that you work with built for vet teams and burnout that you deal with that approach?
Yes, Chris, the veterinary industry, in my opinion, is broken. And I think that it shows the cracks in the walls are showing very, very thin, or very obviously. We are the top professional industry for suicide, and have been for decades, going back and forth with dentists. And we also, and another very disturbing fact, we are the number one professional industry that 5 years out of graduation, we have the most people out of the industry.
Really?
So you've got veterinarians that basically made a decision when they were 5 or 6 years old that that's what they wanted to do. And they worked their entire life to get there through very difficult academic rigors, and just to get into vet school, make it through vet school, go through all of that, come out as a vet, and within 5 years, they are out of the industry working at a job because of the stress, because of the burnout. And now they're $250,000, $300,000 in debt.
Wow. And
so that, from a veterinarian side, and you as a veterinarian, it's really hard to keep good people. They get burnt out, when you are euthanizing dogs every day and cats, and you're talking to owners you've got owners that are making decisions between whether they get their own medicine versus the pet's medicine. You've got situations to where we are having a really tough time as an industry. Now, conversely, on the other side, owners are getting more and more fed up. We're seeing the highest degree of basically practice jumping, if you will, where people just, if they don't like what they hear from one vet, they go to a different vet. They're constantly, it's a constant thing. If you are at any veterinary office in the country, probably a third of the calls that they're getting in are either getting records submitted for the first time, or somebody is transferring it to another place. Owners are saying by their actions that we do not trust what's going on from our veterinarian. And the reason we don't do that, most likely, is because the models that we've been pushed into, 15-minute, 20-minute appointments, to where the doctor's in there maybe 7 or 8 minutes of that time. And you get a brief once over, and even if it's there for a problem, you get drugs, you get a brief explanation. You're not really sure what the plan is. Out the door you go, and you go up to the front to pay your bill, and it's $600 or $800. And owners are increasingly looking to each other, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we have heard some crazy theories of things that have just surfaced. It's like that's not medicine. You can't just stop giving rabies. You can't do that because all vaccines are bad. You can't do that. And yes, I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Wait, are there people starting to do that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they're taking just like the grain-free thing. You take something that is a human hot point and transfer it to your animals. Oh, well, if I don't want it for that. And I'm not saying that's every owner, but I'm saying that there's what's happening out there is this, we're going in two different roads, and we're getting farther and farther, and the gap's getting farther and farther. I propose that the veterinarians would feel a lot better, and the owners would feel a lot better if every time you came to the office, you actually had a blueprint, maybe a checklist, maybe 5 different points based around those pillars of how your animal is doing in your home. The veterinarian could read that. We could talk briefly about each one. And I do believe that those owners would be more than likely ready to have a wellness plan to where, okay, I'm gonna come in quarterly to come in, and we're going to discuss this, and then we can make adjustments as we go. Obviously, that's not going to account for emergencies. It's not going to account for trauma. It's not going to account for those sort of things. But general wellness and general well-keeping of the animal could be put back on track, and the gap could be bridged, and it also could help with the financial burden that the veterinarians are facing. That's actually a point that not a lot of folks understand. Many folks think that because their bills are so high, the vets must be getting rich. And I speak at vet conferences all across the country. I haven't met a rich one yet.
Oh, really? Wow.
I've met a lot of ones that own multiple practices and this, that, and the other, but they're doing everything they can to keep good people, keep the lights on, keep the traffic coming in, because again, that divide between that trust divide between the owners and the veterinarians continues to get bigger and bigger. Wow. And so I think that we've got to stop thinking the way that we've been thinking and listening just to business analysts. I think we need to think hey, what would be best for these animals? And I'm starting this process with the dogs, not because anti-cat or anti-gecko or anything like that, but I just felt like it was the easiest thing to get started on. I plan on eventually expanding that out to other species as well, because I know in a cat household, it's usually a completely different world than in a dog household, and you look at things differently. And I want to address that, but I thought I would go after the dogs first.
Get those dogs done. I think what you're describing too, in some of the, being prepared to share with the vet maybe the issues you're having at home. A lot of people are really bad at doing stuff like that. They just show up and they just go, look at a vet and you tell me what's wrong. Or, they're like, I don't know, he's coughing a lot. But monitoring your pet and being aware of their behavior. I've learned the hard way that if they're drinking a lot of water, there's potential for having cancer. And that's how I discovered my second dog was having cancer issues. And the same thing with my third, with leukemia. And it's tough. And advocating for your dog and also talking to multiple veterinarians has really helped me. I've had a couple vets that have been like, she's old, just put her down. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Just why are you mucking about with your dog? And at one point I had 2 that wanted me to put my dog down, and I had this crazy Chinese origin. I mean, he was from China, and he had a horrible bedside manner. I mean, think of the rudest person you've ever met in China. And that's him. But he was amazing as a veterinarian. And people would write reviews of him. He's like the greatest veterinarian, but just don't mind his bedside manner. You have to ignore all of it because it's really offensive. And it really was. Like, the first time I met him, I was like, I'm in my head going, I will beat you silly. But man, that dude saved my life, my dog's life a couple times, probably my life too, my bank account too. And he was right when the two most expensive, well set up doctors were completely wrong. Yeah. And so you've got to advocate for your dog. You've got to ask what's going on. You've got to get clear. You know, I had one dog where we took her in. She wasn't eating or drinking, or she was drinking like a fish, and then she wasn't eating. And we found she had cancer. And the doctor was like, yeah, just give it 3 days, go home, work it out. She's probably filled with cancer all up in the colon. She had anal sac cancer. And he's like, yeah, she's probably, you know, just call it, dude. And I was like, and I went home, and at first I was like really upset and sad. Sure. But then I realized that she had a death sentence. So I was like, well, that means everything's up from here. So what could we do? And so I started researching and looking at diets and the raw diet and stuff. And that's what actually saved her, the raw diet. Yep. And she started eating again. Turns out it wasn't the food, it was the sugar in the food. So, you know, but talking to lots of vets, taking her to different places, it's a little bit more costly, but you know, sometimes it made the difference between saving my dog and advocating for that knowledge that you're talking about, as opposed to just, I don't know, just, you can't, I mean, there's good vets and there's bad vets, just like there's in any industry. And, you know, they're overworked. I know they have a hard time. You know, they come in, they're like, what's wrong with the dog? It looks like he's, all right, I'm out. And I get it, but you gotta question everything. You gotta ask questions, and I think asking those questions really helps. That or being firm with vets too. Yeah. Sometimes I've had vets try and barrel roll me, and I've been like, no, I don't think you're right. But I do have a very logical, reasonable background, so I just don't do that for fun, people. Because there's some people that when they do it, it's a really bad idea. Yeah. You really don't know better. That's just your ego talking. But yeah, so having these different things. So the community, are you going to set up a separate website for that, or a special one of those special communities?
Yeah, it'll probably be. I guess the way it works with Google Groups is you can set up a link to get into that, and then it's all password done and all that good stuff. And we are in the process of getting that launched. You know, community is huge. But I've learned from some colleagues that have done some really amazing things with some great communities. One being the Canine Arthritis Management Group out of the UK. Oh, wow. Dr. Hannah Capon. She is amazing. She's been working for well over 10 years, and they've built a juggernaut of a community just addressing arthritis. Wow. And, you know, so I'm learning things from them about, you know, group moderation, so that you don't get, you know, just, you know, people with their hair on fire, giving bad advice and that kind of thing. And so, you know, we're in the process of doing that. I think that ultimately, coming from the veterinary industry, you know, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. This is we chose this, we love this life, but the responses that you get very often, the bad responses that owners get, I believe probably are due to an excess amount of just unbelievably bad behavior when it comes to a lot of owners. You don't realize how many times you go in to an exam and somebody is screaming at you when you're trying to help, and they think you're only there about the money. You're just trying to order a test. And they are like, no, I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to pay that. I want to know what's wrong with my dog. Why don't you even care about my animal? And why won't you do this surgery for free? People would never do that to human doctors. And so it's really when you see, and I have seen on both sides of the fence, and that is one of the things that scares me, is that we are in danger of having a divide that you can't get back from, you know, to where people just say, I'll just based on the internet and based on, friends that I know, I'll just treat the dogs myself. We're already starting to see this with the rise of basically vaccines sold out of, farm ag stores. Basically the same places horse owners go to get their feed and everything else now are often carrying stuff for small animal as well. Folks are trying to basically home medicate. Wow. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can make an animal really sick. Yeah. So having a little direction, I'm not saying that if that's the cost effective way that you can do to do it for your animals, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. But you got to have some direction. You got to know what you're doing. And you can't just be basing that off of what the latest thing Instagram says.
Wait, there are quacks on the internet who do things for views and virality, but have lack of knowledge of anything. In fact, the dumber it is, the more viral it goes. So that seems.
Take the supplement industry for a minute. You and I, right now, we could come up with a formula for a supplement, and it could have arsenic, cocaine, and methamphetamines in it, and this was going to cure that anxiety of that dog.
Oh, and, that's Fridays around here, actually.
And, we could throw a couple of pictures up there, and nobody would come regulate that. Those are completely unregulated, and that's why the supplement industry has exploded. And you're wondering, what am I putting in my animal? If you're paying attention. Because everything sounds amazing. It looks slick on the internet, looks slick on TV, but what's happening? Yeah. That's where we have to go back to the science. Let's go back to what has been reviewed, what has been tested, and veterinarians can help you with that.
Years ago, I don't think you can do it anymore, but years ago, I got in Las Vegas the rabies shots, and I think Bordetella or one of those other ones from an IFA. Mm-hmm. And I never administered syringes or IVs, or needles to my dog, and never done this before. And so I went out to my dogs in the car and was about to give them the administrate, and I took and filled the needle and all that stuff. And some told me just to go back in and talk to the gal. And I went back in and talked to the gal, and I go, I don't know that I'm doing this right. Am I doing this right? And she goes, yeah, you got one problem though. You got a lot of bubbles and air in that syringe. You're going to kill your dog because you're injecting oxygen into the bloodstream. And I almost killed my dogs. I don't know if they would have died or what would have happened, but
it's a very real possibility.
Yeah. There's a reason you hire professionals, people, so your dogs live. And I'll never forget that. I'm like, okay, doing home remedy maybe isn't my thing. Let's keep with the professionals. As we go out, give us a final pitch out for people. Is there anything we missed? Anything we want to tease out to people on getting involved with you and what you guys are doing?
No, I think that we've got a email sign up on our on the website. If you want to hear some podcasts that I've done just basically on my own with tips and tricks of how you can actually turn the Coerenza Approach actually into, things around holiday time or things, whatever it is that, my dog is especially anxious. What are enrichment things that I could do around my house? Those kind of things. I put out a number of those. We continue to make that sort of thing, but I think it really boils down to keeping in touch, and be looking for the book, obviously. But we're going to be doing more and more podcasts, hopefully, and getting the word out, because I really believe the power is in the people, and I want to help as many animals. That's the other thing, Chris, is when you go to your true calling after 40 years old. For me, everything changed about what was super important to me. And this is not to generate millions of dollars. This is honestly to help as many animals as we possibly can. And also, if possible, the humans on the vet side as well. Because I know that they're struggling, and I see it from a unique perspective. And I think that I just want to kind of help folks see both sides.
Yeah. And people need to advocate for their dogs. They need to advocate for themselves and their dogs. I remember there was this classic moment where my dog had anal cancer. She'd blown everybody away. She'd blown the 3 days away. She lived for 1.75 years after diagnosis.
Amazing.
When the doctor said she's not going to make it another month. That doctor did, let's put it that way. And every time I take her in, they would just be like, we have no reason. No, we have no idea why she's still alive. And she actually put on weight. She started eating again with the raw diet and everything else. And, but there was a time where she started collapsing, and I was like, okay, the anal sac's right there. It had grown to a golf ball size. And I'm like, okay, it's clearly interfering with her legs. It's time to call the ball. And, so I should have gone into the doctor and just met with them, but instead, I just assumed the worst. It was, we were a really dark place doing hospice care for her for 1.75 years. Sure. And so I went in, I paid the money to have her put down. I signed all the papers and stuff. And the dog came in and he goes, hey, I guess we're doing this today. I know we've seen Abby a number of times. And he said, what's going on? Well, she's, her back legs are giving out. She's fallen down. I think it's spread through her legs maybe. And he said, hey man, this struck me like a lightning bolt to the head. I'll never forget it. And he goes, hey man, I know you paid to put the dog down and you've signed to have it done. He goes, but looking at her, I'd like to take a look at her. And he goes, listen, I'll understand if you need to do this for you, because this is tough. And maybe you've reached that point where it's just too tough. And he goes, so if you want to call it, I don't want to put pressure on you if this is what you want to do, but we'd like to look at your dog and decide and just do an analysis if you don't mind. And him suggesting that there were people that, reached a point where they couldn't handle it anymore, that the dog had potential. I was like, holy crap, there's people that do that. And so I said, yeah, please, if you can save me from putting her down today, take her in the back. They took her in the back. Turns out it wasn't the cancer. It was she had severe arthritis developed. Yep. And he's like, I'm pretty sure after we checked her out that if we just put her on some good arthritis medicine, she'll come back and you can buy more time. And she did. She lived for another 6 months or something. Yep. It was crazy. And then I think it was, in the end, her legs finally did blow out. And between that and the cancer, we had to finally call out. I mean, she was dragging herself around the floor. And the doc's like, yeah, I don't think we're here. But, we bought 6 months. And it was great that the doctor, instead of listening to me trying to tell him how to do his job, that's a great example there, but also advocating. But it was really interesting. He's like, if you can't do this, if you can't handle it and you're done, we'll call it. Yeah. I was like, geez, there are people that go, so my dog might live 6 more months. Nah, go ahead and call it. And I've seen that with a lot of dog owners. They'll go to a doctor or a vet and they'll go, yeah, the doctor said, game over. It's whatever. I'm just going to put her down. I'm like, do you want to get a second or third opinion? Yeah. I mean, because I've been told several times to put my dog down, and she lived for 5 to 10 years after, maybe 7. So it's just one of those things. And they'll be like, oh no, I just decided to put her down. And I'm like, geez, you quit a little easy there, didn't you? Yeah. But it's not my journey. It's their journey. I get it. But still, I've kind of seen that a lot where people give up too easy.
Well, I think we're approaching a situation in dog and pet ownership to where we're getting further and further down this path of either extreme care and the cost is no limit, and no care because it can't be afforded. And we've got to do something as an industry to help rectify that. And I believe at least something as simple as, hey, at least can we talk about the same things that would actually matter to that animal instead of just going in going, well, I got to put them down because I can't afford to feed them anymore.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I'm kind of curious about what's going on there. I've been looking for a new puppy and I like to have a puppy. The ride, it's so hard at the end. Usually the last few years you're carrying them, and I just want the full ride because it's so painful, and I don't want to be close to the ending than I am to the beginning.
Yeah.
And so that's just my thing. I don't have children. If you want to tell me otherwise, unless you adopted your children, I don't really want to hear it. That's always the thing that you should adopt, Chris. Yeah, well, did you adopt your children or did you squirt them out your pie hole? Yeah, shut up. So these are my children. But jokes aside, where was it going with this? I think I segued into a joke and I cornered myself. It's a cul-de-sac. I can't get out. But no, I'm lost. But we'll just wrap.
No problem. You were saying that you're seeing this with people and having difficulty.
So we're looking for a new dog. And I'm kind of surprised at the extraordinary amount of dogs that are a 5 to 7 year age that are up for sale. And there's almost a wink and a nod, sly, subconscious thing that when I'm talking to people, I'm starting to wonder if their dog is finally, they took the best years and now they've maybe health hit the skids. Because they're like, yeah, we're just trying to give the dog away and we just can't give it time anymore. And I'm starting to think, maybe they can't afford the vet bill.
The care, yeah.
Yeah. Or, the feeding. The biggest thing for me is a lot of them are Huskies, and these idiots never figured out what they were buying.
Right, exactly.
And now they're like, we're just so overwhelmed. And it's like, yeah, it's a Husky. Well, that's a whole game in and of itself.
It is.
So I've had 4 of them. Anyway, well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it and learned a lot there, Dr. Tom. We'll look forward to some of the things you're doing there. Give us your .com one last time for bookends as we go out. Sure.
It's my office in Myrtle Beach is primepetrehab.com. And the Coerenza Approach is the Coerenza Approach, and Coerenza is COERENZA.
All right, folks, be good to each other, stay safe, and don't lock your dogs in the backyard and forget about them. Those are the worst people in the world.
Good call.
Their family aren't animals. And if your family isn't good enough, go give the dog away to somebody else. One of our neighbors has got one of those dogs that's locked in the backyard eternally, and it barks to all hours of the day and night, and you just want to go over and strangle some of these people. But you can't do that because that's illegal. But it should be legalized, I think. If you got a dog and you're abusing it, then we should all get to go over and... No, I'm just kidding. Violence is not the answer, folks. Call an attorney. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. .com/Chris Chris Voss. Chris's show advocates for violence. No, we just do jokes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Tom, that's got us out. This